I guess we all have to go through our pains and struggles and our own desert,
Mhm.
but ultimately, there are solutions. There is a future, right? Like me and you are sitting here, we're laughing, we're talking, but there was a time where me and you wouldn't be able to do that,
Yeah,
and the
because
fact that we're here, our story could have been different. If I had done what I wanted to do for that moment, if you had ever like gone darker, we wouldn't be sitting here. It would be a different story, right? All right, so welcome back to the Out of Chaos podcast, a discussion based podcast where we try to make sense of the chaotic world we live in. Joining me today for our 10th episode is Rich. He's an amazing musician, guitarist. He's outspoken. And what was the word that you said?
provocative.
Provocative.
I'm a provocateur. Hello, internet.
Tell me about your musician skills, man. Like I've seen you play guitar. I've seen you do the riff and everything. That's amazing. I've always wanted to play.
Well, it's something that I started really young, right? Like I begged my parents. It was just like, I was a weird kid. I like, you know, I lived in the suburbs. I as a young, you probably don't know this about me. As a young kid, we lived in the suburbs in Maple. Didn't kind of in like a secluded riverside
Yeah.
town. So it's like I was kind of by myself or like with my family a lot, my sister. So I remember like watching music videos and like or whenever I saw a guitar in a movie or some sort of media, I'm like, that's what I want to do, right? Like I want to be a guitar player. I just something about having a guitar looked really cool to me. You know, when I was 8, I finally got one, and it's like that. And I'm a guy like I change my mind a lot. It's hard for things to keep my attention, which is probably like already like ADD induced. So, but like it's that one thing that always that thing that was in my life, and I kind of stuck to it and just. And I'm kind of like I'm not that I'm a quitter, but I get disenchanted with things, right? But it's one of those things that
How
just
has it been though? Like, cause you say you're in a band, right?
yeah, I'm a little now. I don't do music like professionally anymore.
Yeah.
I used to do it like I would like skip work. I used to work. I used to work for my dad, and I'd kind of like play hooky and go on tour or like go play with my band. And now I just do it for fun. Now it's like
Yeah.
now I have a real job. Like it's not really my
But how was it like? Cause I play piano, and
I
I've been
didn't
playing since I was 7.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and so I completely understand when you're saying about like how that kind of when you stick to something and you see it develop, especially as a young kid, it's so intriguing and it's so like addicting, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you become good at it, it's like I still think when I play, I'm like, where did it all come from? I always thought I was this
Yeah.
kid that was like shy and stuff, but
You're like
no.
how did I get good at something? Like
Exactly.
not that you're in your brain. You're like I'm kind of an idiot. Like how did I? But with me, it was like I started playing at 8. I didn't take it seriously till I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Like being in high school, it's like oh yeah, like chicks dig that I play guitar and dig that I'm in a band. You get better, you practice. Then it's like you start playing with like older kids or like
Yeah.
other people in bands. You're like, yeah, I gotta fucking step it up, right? And then, but now sometimes I'll like kind of listen to myself play, and now it's like now that I'm older and I'm kind of more focused, it's like okay, yeah, now it took me 20 years, but now I'm good at this, and
Yeah.
no one can tell me no. No one can tell me I'm not good at it, right?
Yeah.
And it's that, and at the end of the day, whether I'm good at it or not, it's cathartic. It helps me deal with my issues.
Yeah. When we met, like I saw the whole environment, like I think we are musicians. You don't have to be in a band or like a top artist, recognized artist to be a musician, right? So as a fellow musician, like it interests me to realize that like it's what we were talking about, right? When you're going through hard times, it's something that you didn't even know you needed,
Hmm.
right? Especially with, like for me, piano. It's similar to guitar in terms of like melody. You gotta use your fingers.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it makes you more what's the word when you're good with your hands? It makes you kind of my hand-eye coordination got
mm,
better, and like it helped me focus because I was like my parents and my family can attest to this. I was a spinning top. I couldn't stop. I was like ADD, ADHD. I probably still have it. Like ADHD, couldn't keep like I'd be like doing my homework, but then I'd go like play basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but then you get older, you kind of you have to learn how to focus. Like back to the music business, it is sort of a hollow thing. It's like you ever had someone like try to offer a pyramid scheme to you?
Yeah. All the time.
Like I've had dudes who were like in it was this weird sketchy guy that like messaged me on Facebook, and I ended up doing some research on him, and he's like, "Yeah, man, me and my friends are like an indie record label, like we want to sign you." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I don't even have an album out. Like what are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, we're going to sign you and like you're going to go on tour." And I talked to my friend Scott, and he's like, "Yeah, man, this happened a few years ago." He's like, "Don't sign anything." He's like, "This guy's like full of shit. He's just trying to, he's trying to pull a fast one on you." And that's what it is. That's what the music business is. It's people trying to pull a fast
Wait,
one.
what was he trying to do? Like, how would he get money from
He
you?
wanted me to. He was like he was like a self promoter. He was basically he was selling dog shit is what he was doing. He had nothing. Him and his partner were like acoustic musicians. They were like, "Yeah, we're our own production company. We do everything." And then like he wanted me to meet up with him in like Oshawa, and I'm like, "Yeah, dude." I'm like, "Okay, you." Enough said. Oshawa? Yeah, no thanks.
Oh, sure.
I worked in Oshawa for like 5 years with my dad, and I saw some shit. But yeah, it's the music business is kind of it's a scary thing because I've seen people that it's made them a fortune because I have friends who are like successful musicians, but I also have my friends who are like, yeah, man, it's bullshit. Like my song gets played on the radio once in a while, and I make dog shit royalties. Actually, my buddy is going to be watching anyways. He's in a local band,
Yeah.
and the other day I was coming back from a Tinder date, and his band covers a Beastie Boys song. So I'm listening to like 97.7 at like 1:30 in the morning after my Tinder date, and I'm like, "Hey man, you're on 97.7." He's like, "For real?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh man," he's like, "They haven't played us in a while." And I asked him like, like it's a cover. I'm like, "Do you make royalties on that song?" And he's like, "No, really." And I'm like, "Mm."
So wait, so they just play a song and then
Well, yeah, but like
they don't pay him at all?
from what I know about record, like I don't know. I never had a record deal. I had
Yeah.
like I'd go on tour with bigger bands. It's more like back to what I was saying. It's a pyramid scheme. Like yeah, they'll give you money. They'll sign you and say, hey, yeah, you're gonna get a 4 album deal, whatever. Here's $1 million, but this is to like support your first tour and album, but you're gonna have to pay that back. It's like the bank giving you a mortgage. It's
Oh,
like
what?
it's like so a lot of big bands like Guns N' Roses, for example. I read this about them. They didn't start really making money till your third album is what pays off all the debt from your
Oh my!
yeah
Not even their first or second.
like Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
I read his book, and he's like he had to pay like $25 million and because he never did his taxes, and before he was Slash from Guns N' Roses, before he got his big break, he was a clockmaker, and he was making like dog money, and yeah, he didn't. They were getting paid cash or whatever, or like uncertified checks. He had to pay millions of dollars back. So that's like the dirty part of the business is like you don't know what's happening. And also, again, my friend told me that he went to Portugal, went to go do like a show there, was promised that he'd get paid, and then wasn't paid by the promoter. The promoter like left after the show.
Explain to me like how's the feeling of like adrenaline when you're up there on the stage, how do you feel? What's the like what's going through your head?
The first when you're walking on, and like plug whatever I plug in my guitar, you're like kind of doing a
Tuning?
little test before like you're whatever. A lot of bands will every band has like their own intro, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of punk bands just like jump right into it. And we were like a DIY band. We made our own merch. We recorded
Yeah.
ourselves. And for us it was like we were crazy. We wanted to like jump around and put on a great show. So like that first minute you're on stage, it's like my heart's gonna beat out of my chest. Like I feel like I'm gonna pass out. But then and then the first song you feel kind of bumpy because you're like, oh my god, am I gonna? You kind of get in your head, but and I can't speak for every musician, for every guy, but when I'm up there, it's it takes a few minutes and then it's like yeah, like
You're good.
I'm good. Like I was made to do this.
Oh man, my biggest like I don't want to say performance because I don't think it's like at church. Like I've played in front of a church, but like I imagine like with a crowd, like obviously with the church, like they don't cheer for you, right? But I
Yeah.
imagine like in a band, like there's people cheering for you, and like it must be I guess exhilarating, right?
It's kind of scary actually because I remember playing a show at Sneaky D's, or no, not Sneaky D's. It was the El Macumbo, and like all my like friends were like chanting my band's name, and it was kind of like we were in the backstage area that's like the size of this room, and I remember it like shake. I'm like, oh my god, people are screaming for
Oh,
us.
this was like after you were done,
No,
or
this is when we were about. It was our
about to
first.
go on.
It
Oh
was
yeah.
like our first show ever. All our friends were like, "Yeah, you guys should get together." And we kind of had a band in high school, but they're like, "Yeah, you guys should do it full time." And we did it, and people loved it. And that was the best part of it was like it was our own little thing. Like we
Yeah.
go, like we wouldn't go to a nightclub on the weekend. Like we would, but we when we were busy with the band, it's like, yeah, we're gonna go do our own little party. And
It's our own little party.
but I remember also like my band had already done a couple of shows, and we're playing like the Rock Pile in Mississauga, and it's a medium sized venue, and when you got like 500 people in a room screaming at you, it kind of hits you. It
Yeah.
like it you literally feel like wind, like it's the shrieking also. It does to me. It does like this. It kind of shakes up my chest a little bit. When you
Yeah.
almost like when you feel anxious, you're like, oh man, like
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
just hit me.
Yeah. Oh
But
man,
but
that must be like an amazing feeling.
for like I have like I've had people tell me like I could never do that. I could never like I have like a friend of mine. He's like I could never
Stage fright.
get in
Right.
front of people and talk and sweat, and I'm like I don't know. Maybe I have no shame. I've always
Do you compare, let's say, singing and playing, or just playing with, like, let's say if you have to like give a speech, would you say it's on the same level, or
you know
would you
what
do one or the other?
I'd rather play in front of people because like I've had to give speeches. I've like even at work I have to do like safety talks and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking to a bunch of guys, and it's they know me at work. They don't take me seriously, but it's. I mean, I feel like I can control. Like I've learned to control a crowd,
Mm.
and like I've done amateur nights at what's that place the one on Yuck Yucks,
Oh yeah.
and
Okay.
they dug it. They're like, yeah, they're like, you're funny, and it's like I was just there talking shit, right? Like,
Oh wait, like stand up.
yeah,
Oh, that's
I've done like
amazing,
an
dude.
amateur night. I've actually also done my mom's gonna hate me because she's probably gonna see this. I did. I'm just laying it all out tonight. A couple of years ago, maybe I was probably 21, 22. Do you know where Remington's is
Yeah, yeah.
on Yonge Street?
Yeah.
So it's a male strip bar, and Monday night, I don't know if they still do it, but Monday night they do amateur night. So they'll give you $100 to like go out and just get naked and make an ass of yourself. And honestly,
No
me and my
way.
friend did it, and it was the best thing we ever did. It was,
Like butt naked.
I went. He didn't get naked. I got naked. And it's like,
Yeah.
and there's these like there's it wasn't weird getting naked for the girls. It was weird getting naked for the guys because people are like, people are kind of looking at you like, yeah. Like,
But how long are you supposed to be naked for? Like, what do you do?
they give you like
I'm not inquiring. I'm inquiring for the information, not for myself.
they give you like three songs, and
3 songs to perform.
they're like yeah, and apparently I actually have a friend who owns. It's a nightclub bar, but it's also it's a strip bar.
Yeah.
It's like a Chippendales Magic Mike kind of thing. And he tells me all the time, he's like, dude, he's like, come dance at my bar. Because my barber had told him, hey man, like this guy's done like amateur night before. And he's like, yeah, man, like chicks dig guys with dad bods and you have a dad bod. And I'm like, listen, man, like we went to like Like I did it one time. I don't want to make like a professional.
Oh my
He's like,
god.
but you can make $400 like in a night. He's like, and then like my girlfriend at the time was like, she's like, do you want to do it? I'm like, kinda. I'm like just for the money. And then, but you know what it was? You know what it was for me? It was like it's and maybe this is gonna sound kind of like whatever. It's like I make enough money at my job like during the week. It's like, do I really need to go like put myself through that? Like, yeah, I love money. I love having extra money for like stupid stuff, right? But I was like, no, you know when you want to do something. You know when you're like, yeah, when you get
You have a
something that
calling for it now.
yeah.
You didn't feel the calling, I guess. I know you've mentioned to me like you're coming out of a relationship.
Yeah.
Like I guess I always like to relate because we were talking at the beginning about like how we deal with our depressions, our sadness. Sometimes we go into our passions, our hobbies,
Mhm.
right?
You
You
dive.
dive in, right? So like I'm not gonna say I came out of a breakup, but like I was dealing through with something and I used podcasting. It's something that I didn't like. I'm not saying I'm doing it because I had nothing to do. I'm saying I've always been passionate about it, but since I needed to like divert that energy and passion, I chose what I've been waiting to do, which is podcasting, right? So
Mhm.
I imagine, did you do that with instruments, and what was the cause of that?
I'll tell you one thing. Yeah, it was always the thing I went to. It's always there. It's always
Yeah,
there. Good, whether my life is good, whether there's bad stuff going on. Um, there was a point in my depression where I couldn't touch a guitar just because
yeah,
it's my brain wasn't working. My brain couldn't do it. But like as a younger guy, I used to take break. When I was like younger, like teenage years, 20s, I took breakups really hard,
yeah.
and you kind of dive into debauchery. Maybe I drink a little more, maybe I smoke a little bit of grass or other stuff. But yeah, music was the thing. I would. You have more time. You have more time for your hobbies. You're gonna dive into them, right? And yeah, it helped me deal, especially and this time being 31. It's like I'm older now. I don't hang out after work. I like sleep on the couch,
Yeah.
or I hang out with my friend, my neighbor, and I don't I don't. I'm kind of keeping my nose cleaner because I'm an older guy.
Yeah.
I got responsibilities, and so yeah, I had a lot of time to really dive back into the music, and it was very, like I said, it was cathartic. It helped me deal with what was going on.
How has it been coming out of this last relationship that you were telling me about?
It was, what, it was different because you're with somebody for so long. They're a big part of your life. It was a good, honestly, it was a good breakup, and she's probably watching, and I'm okay with that. And if maybe she'll give me hell about it later, but she gave me 6 good years. I got nothing against her.
Yeah.
I hope she finds what she's looking for. You know,
I respect that,
I,
man. That's good.
I'm kind of just I'm not looking to dive back into anything, but my heart's open.
Yeah.
I have nothing. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. And that's one thing too. Like I have younger guys that I work. I know I'm going off topic. I have
Yeah,
younger
no worries.
guys that I work with. 19-year-old kid. He's like, he goes, I think I'm depressed because my whole company knows that I like. I'm kind of like the mental health guy for our like safety group.
So just to clarify, like, you struggle with this now,
Yeah,
or
anxiety. Well, a couple of years now, I've dealt, and I think it was. I had my own company for a couple of years,
yeah,
and that it was a lot of stuff. And I worked with my dad. My dad's like was very demanding. It was a lot of things. A lot of
yeah,
like maybe a lot of teenage angst I never dealt with, like bad relationships that like you know the time when I focus on when something's in my life, I go into it, and I'm an overthinker too. I've always been an overthinker, but now that I'm medicated, it's kind of like things flow better, and you get older too. You get more relaxed,
yeah,
and like I think clearer now. But I think clearer now. I think because of my meds. But this guy that I work with, like back to what I was saying, he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I'm kind of dealing with some depression. I got some shit going on in my life, and he's like, I know you deal, and he's like, what's your advice? And I said, listen, you can either do therapy or get medicated or do both or learn. There's some guys who are like not into meds and they're like, yeah, I got to learn how to deal. And that's fine. And that's
yeah.
fine. Um, and there's a lot of guys who jump into debauchery. They drink or do drugs, and I don't condone that. But, sort of helps, takes the edge off, but it's not a good.
It's not a long term solution, I
You
guess.
should never be left to. We should never be left to our vices. There's an old saying, "I'll leave you to your vices," but sometimes we shouldn't because it can kill us.
Yeah.
But and I told him, I said, "Listen, man, you're 20, 19. I'm like, everything seems fucked. Because I remember being 20 and not knowing what I wanted to do and working for my dad and going to college and doing, like, what the fuck am I going to do with my life? I was always, before, one thing that my anxiety caused was existentialism. I was always a very existential person.
Yeah.
Like, why am I here? Like, what's my purpose? And I told this guy, listen, man, when you turn 30, it all clicks. And my friend's husband, who I've become really good friends with over the years, told me the same thing. He's like, dude, when you turn 30, it just all falls into place. And I'm noticing that now because I had to kind of have a career change a couple of years ago. I went from like residential construction to building buildings.
Yeah.
And I was terrified when I started. I'm like, oh my God, I'm starting over. I don't know anything. But then, I had a lot of guys there that I knew already from like
Yeah.
the construction industry is kind of like everybody knows everybody. Like, oh, you work for this company, now you work for this company. The guy that I was working with, it was almost like fate. The guy, because in high rise construction, it's a partner system. So there's the more seasoned guy and there's
Yeah.
the new guys. They put me with a guy that worked for my dad for like 10 years, right? So he kind of like he literally showed me the ropes. He mentored me, which it's good. It's good to have like that support, and you kind of get the ball rolling quicker, right?
Yo, that point that you said is one that I've been circling around for a while, and it's what you just said, getting a mentor. That's, bro, when I was growing up, I think nobody emphasized that enough, you know? Like there was nobody, not only was there nobody to like offer help, but like I didn't even know that I should seek like not even just help, but someone that like maybe went through what I went through, maybe was a little older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think getting a mentor is key to a lot of things, whether it's not even just in like mental health, but even in starting a business or something, you definitely need a mentor to help you. And it's so interesting because especially with this pandemic going on, I imagine a lot of people are feeling um, lost in the dark, So this is why I kind of wanted to talk about this. This podcast is about balancing chaos. So I think you're an amazing guy to talk about this because I guess I want to ask you, how did you balance yours? Your depression, your issues. I'm not saying you didn't have to like overcome them fully because but how would you advise people to deal with it? What's your example in your life?
Of how to deal with the chaos, the
Yeah, the
like.
chaos in your life. Like you said, you were in a dark place, right, for a
Oh,
while.
I was in like when I say like you think like um like you don't know that you're there until you're there, if that makes sense. So I like I had some traumatic things happen. I had there was a year like I think it was I was 27. Like my company was falling apart. I couldn't like I wasn't making enough money. I had some other traumatic things happen. Um, I was a couple of years with you know the girl I was dating, and she was kind of like she was starting to get tired of my shit a little bit. Like she had to kind of smooth out the rough edges because I I'm not perfect. Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect. It was so much, and it just kind of overwhelmed me. It was, I closed down my company. I had this traumatic thing happen to me. You know, family issues, deaths. I had a couple of deaths. Working with my dad for many years too. My dad was really hard on me, kind of like bad temper, whatever.
Yeah.
That kind of like added to it, and I think it was always inside of me, but there's triggering things, there's triggering factors, and then one day I just went catatonic at work. I was just like, you go, the guy I was working for was like, yeah, something's wrong with you. You need to like get help because you're not yourself. He's like, you haven't been yourself for a long time, and I took and I went to the doctor, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you have like full on clinical depression. Like it was so bad, like as gross as this sounds, like it was affecting me. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. It
It
affected
affected your whole life, right?
every aspect of my life. For the fact that like I'd sit down to because I took a few months off work because
Yeah.
I knew it takes about when you take an antipsychotic or when you take a serotonin inhibitor like what I'm taking something really gradual. I'm taking like 20 milligrams. Really, like they prescribe this to like toddlers and old people. It's just it's the
Yeah.
most it's like the most low grade antidepressant. It cures everything. It cures like OCD, personality disorders. Um, Even the simplest things like going to sit down to watch Netflix and I'd like stare blankly at the TV or like my and when I had my first panic attack or whatever, my first episode, my parents were in Portugal, so I was like in the house by myself, and 3 in the morning I'm vacuuming because my medication, you go through these highs and lows, and then
Yeah.
finally the medication kind of settles you, and I remember vacuuming the house at 3 in the morning and just like trying to write, and my therapist was like, write down your thoughts, and I was just like, what? I'm writing down like how I'm feeling. I'm like, oh my god, this is fucked up. Like I literally thought I was losing my mind. I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm gonna end up in a loony bin.
Yeah.
And it was the skit, and I'd cry. I was alone in my house. I had my girlfriend there. I had
Yeah.
I had people checking in on me, which was good. Like that's if you ever know, people like you have to check in on these people because they might blow their brains out.
Yeah. It's true.
And you get to a point like when you get really bad. I've been there. Like I never acted on it, but you get to a point where you have like static in your head. You feel so shitty. Like you feel like nothing can help you. But
Yeah.
it's I can go on about it all night.
No, but so I guess like, what would be your advice to someone that is in that exact situation that you're describing? Because for me, I've never been in a situation where like I've thought of killing myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I have been in a dark place where
Yeah.
it's what you said, it's static. Maybe a version of it where like, kind of get a little personal, but like I've always mentioned to my close friends that like I'd be like driving, like crying, and sometimes I just like would want it to go away, just like the thoughts in my head,
Yeah.
right? So the closest thing I've ever had is to like I wanted to just ram into a pole, but not to like I didn't think like my mentality wasn't to like go like kill myself.
It's
It was just like maybe I could be in a coma
to make it stop.
to make it stop,
I know.
right?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Honest to God, I didn't mean like to like kill myself. I didn't like because but then again, that's such a dumb thought because
Mhm.
I could have, But thank God I never went through with it. It was just like a thought, like,
Yeah.
and this is the thing. That's what's so scary. It's like a glimpse, like a second of a thought, and it's so scary that you even had that in the first place.
It's something to do with your mind. A guy that I worked for explained it to me because when I was building houses, when you stand on the edge of like heights, for apparently there's a little void. You always have an inclination to jump. It's just like it's some sort of cerebral thing, like or like you. Someone told that to me a long time ago.
Yeah,
But it's like obviously like if you're of sound mind, you're not gonna jump
100%.
because people who are crazy aren't aware that they're crazy. If you like,
Bro, I've been watching a lot of murder mysteries, and it's always not everybody, but there is people that like they tell them like a voice tells them, or God tells them, or like the devil tells them. It's like a voice, right? I'm pretty sure there's other people that just murder people,
yeah,
but there are people that genuinely have that.
and
You know,
and schizophrenia,
schizophrenia. Yeah,
schizophrenics. I've seen schizophrenics because I had to spend some time at CAMH when I first like went through my whatever I was going through, and you see, and like if you admit yourself, you're not getting out. Like my dad had like I don't know if it was a minor stroke. My dad kind of had like he fell into a depression because my dad also had like $1 million company, right? And like big contracts. He kind of when I was a teenager, I remember this, and I think my mom took him to CAMH, and they wanted to admit him because they saw like how catatonic he was.
Sorry to interrupt. What is CAMH? Just for
Oh,
for-
CAMH is like it's like a not really a community center. It's sort of like for people dealing with mental. It's like a rehab center,
Okay.
rehabilitation.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a center. It's like you can go to like there's like this thing called the Back on Track program. If you get caught, like if you get a DUI, it's
Yeah.
there's a lot to it. It's you know
Okay.
what, it's a very helpful organization. What I've learned in my life, because I have selfish tendencies. I can be a little bit self-absorbed.
Yeah.
You don't give a fuck till it happens to you. You don't until bad shit happens to you. You're like whatever. You can have empathy. You can see it happen to people. You can have empathy, but you don't give a shit
Yeah.
till it happens to you. And and um and I think that's just our nature because I don't think by nature we're good we're animals, right? We're looking out for I don't think humans are good by nature.
Yeah. Yeah, it's what you said about that little voice, like that everybody has it. Like it's not even just suicidal thoughts. It's even like to do something bad,
Yeah.
like to not cheat on your girlfriend, to cheat on your girlfriend, to not have that extra burger when you're trying to diet, to have
Yeah.
it, like it's always that tendency, right? So like I know you wanted to dive into and I want to dive into it too, like kind of provide some solutions. Like obviously we're not clinical psychologists nor experts, but I mean, I think we both have that experience. We've overcome this obstacle in our lives, right? So you don't need to be uh, an expert to have overcome, right? And from my personal experience of what I told you, I obviously found refuge in my faith, right? I would
Yeah.
go in my
Mm.
room hours and I would just like pray, in my room. That was my refuge, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's so hard to talk about because like remembering that it was such a hard time, but like for me it worked. I'm not saying that's what it is for everybody. For me that like I'm talking about hours like just in my room where to this day I had to change rooms because like sometimes being in that room reminded me of
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
And I try to smile when I remember that because I'm out of that.
Yeah.
So it is like a bittersweet memory because you left your like blood, sweat, and tears in there, but you overcame it. So there's like an over that you overcame it feeling, but there's also that like sadness where it sucked that you went through that,
Yeah,
right?
but but you're like, I'm glad I went through it
But
because it
yeah,
made, and they say experience is the best teacher. There's no, you got to do something, you got to fuck something up 100 times to get to be like, yeah,
yeah,
now I got it. And like you were saying, how you couldn't go in the same room. I have that problem with my like, I have like a little studio where I
hmm
hang out. It's like I got like a TV and all my guitars and stuff down there. And then there's like my house is really weirdly built. It's like a bungalow backsplit, so it has like four or five. Like my parents' bedroom is like a den. Really weirdly built house, but like the main living room where like my parents hang out. That's where I did all like my crying and like that's where I had all like the ups and downs and just like being like I remember like getting up when I was like struggling, when I was having like when I took time off work, I get out of bed at like 6 in the morning because I couldn't sleep. I wasn't sleeping. And actually, before I got on the antidepressants, I was taking Ambien. I was having trouble sleeping for a few months. Where like every night I don't know, for anyone that doesn't know, Ambien is like what Elvis was on. Like it's a sleeping pill, but it'll make you do crazy shit. Like you'll get up in the middle of the night, you'll make a phone call, you'll like do some crazy shit.
wow,
Like uh apparently I called somebody at like 4 in the morning and they're like and I was making perfect sense. But yeah, this stuff, like what I was taking, and it was terrible. It was so bad for you because you get reliant on it. And
yeah,
I was um wow, I'm like I would take them and you feel like you drank a bottle of whiskey, like you're so hungover and you're so irritable the next day, like you want to kill somebody. You're like you slept obviously, but
yeah,
you're like overly groggy. And what you were saying about praying to God, I'm okay. I'm not gonna go and say that I'm like I believe in God. I believe there's got to be some sort of higher.
yeah,
I can't say hey God's real. He looks like this.
yeah,
I believe that there's something out there. We're not there's the we're the universe is too beautiful and perfect for there not to be some sort of creator. Like you ever watch The Matrix?
yeah, yeah,
There's the architect.
yeah, yeah,
Like there's an architect, the
yeah,
architect of the Matrix. And I remember being so fucked up like when I was like just low, like because I was like manic depressed. I was it was almost the medication was it's kind of centering you, right? You'll have high highs, low lows. Like 1 minute I'm crying, a few hours later I'm like laughing, then I'm
Yeah.
just in a death like sleep. And I remember like, one night being like God, please like help me make it end. Like I know I'm not a real, like having a full on conversation with God, like please make it end. Like I this is the worst feeling ever. Like because it was like it's like your chest is gonna explode. You feel like you're gonna pass out or die.
Yeah. Yeah.
For anyone that has like really high anxiety, it's like the wor it's the worst feeling in the world.
Yeah.
And then like nothing helps. No one can help you. Nothing helps. Like
Yeah.
your brain is literally like your brain has given up on you. You're not even your brain can help you.
Yeah. That's why for me, like, I found refuge in that. It's because what you're saying, like, it's so crazy because a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I went through, I don't know, I got like a pain in my stomach, or like, and I couldn't even stand, like, I couldn't even stand straight. And it was for like 3 hours that I had it, or like an evening. And it's so crazy because, like, oh, I'm out here, like, I think I'm so cool, like, I work out, like, I'm a young guy, supposedly. And this little pain, like, I can't even stand. And when I went into my room that night, I was like, us humans are so, like, nothing. There has to be some kind of higher power. There has to be something stronger than you, right? And I'm not here to, like, preach or anything, right? But I'm saying, like, that's why when I was going through what I was going through, I'm like, it's impossible for anybody to do this alone.
Yeah.
Like, this is why either you have to go get help, go to your like family, your friends, or multiple family members, multiple friends, or in your faith or whatever it is. Because that's the point I'm trying to make, right? You can't. No human being can do it alone.
You need something to run to. You gotta have something to someone or something. And
That little pain that I had, it was like a stomach pain, it brought me almost to my knees, And I'm supposed to be this young, spry guy, and I can't do nothing, So that's what I'm trying to get to, like that. There's problems that you can't overcome alone. And like there's a quote that you know who Jordan Peterson is? I always quote him,
the
and
guy from
yeah,
UFA.
like I love him, but he always quotes Friedrich Nietzsche, right?
Yeah.
And it's that like he who has any why to live can bear almost any how. Like so, whenever you have a why, you can bear a how, right? And that's what I would recommend because like to finish off the podcast, to finish off this episode, I want us to kind of like give some advice, some like wisdom to our audience, right? Because I don't want to leave them the way we were, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess we all have to go through our pains and struggles and our own desert,
Mhm.
but ultimately, there are solutions. There is a future, right? Like me and you are sitting here, we're laughing, we're talking, but there was a time where me and you wouldn't be able to do that,
Yeah.
and the fact that we're here, our story could have been different. If I had done what I wanted to do for that moment, if you had ever like gone darker, we wouldn't be sitting here. It would be a different story, right? So to leave it off, like what I would say is that always try to find a responsibility. If you don't have a job, find a job. If you
Yeah.
buy a little puppy, try to like lose some weight or try dating.
Yeah.
Like Jordan Peterson always talks about that. Like get some responsibility. Like if you don't have a job or a girlfriend or nothing, work towards that goal. Something and like save up for a car.
Yeah.
Like a new outfit. Like always like when you have a purpose. And I've always said this, man. Like even in my worst suffering, where I would be like flat on the ground crying, I'm like I would always say to myself that, and I would always pray to God. I'm like, if there's a reason to this, I will suffer this for another 100 years. But if there's no reason to this, then like there's no point,
You-
because
you-
the why is what gives you the strength to go on. Right?
when you're in the moment, it's the worst thing in the world.
It's the worst thing in the world.
But
Yeah.
once it passes, you're like, okay, you're like, was it really that bad? There's Webster. Someone told me this a long time ago. I don't remember who it was. What the definition of insanity in the Webster's dictionary is uh, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah.
You can't, and they say you can't heal in the environment that broke you. You have to move. You have to, because if you're not moving, and it took me a while because I'm kind of a lazy guy. It took me a while to grasp this. You got to just keep going. You got to, good or bad, you got to just keep the machine going. Because sooner or later you're gonna get a break, and things work themselves. And most of the time things do kind of just work themselves out in my experience, right?
Sometimes it's just about timing, right?
Just sweating it out.
Yeah. But you can do stuff in the meantime, right? Like I'm not trying to leave people helpless either.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
there are things that you can do in the meantime, which is why I'm saying like pursuing goals, right? Recognizing that like something that changed my life, man, is that I always tried to be the best man I could be. That's always been my passion, right? To
Yeah.
to be a good son, to be a good student, to be a good brother, to be right. But the moment I came to terms is with that I'm flawed, that I will fail, is when I had some peace, and that's so ironic, right? Like the moment I came to terms with that I'm actually not that good of a guy, is when I found some peace.
It's yeah.
It's weird.
You just got. It's like I'm hearing an echo. Like I'm. It's because we are. We're we don't go just by instinct like the animals. The animals kind of just go on instinct, and they don't think
Yeah.
they're doing anything wrong. We are flawed, and I'm a flawed person. I have crazy thoughts. I've done shitty things, but it's like you got it's not the good things about yourself that you should kind of focus on. It's the bad things about yourself, I think, that make you who you are, that make you that like the negative energy in me is what helps me write my heavy music, or like it's
Like I read this amazing line that's kind of what you're saying, that says that you should compete with yourself and not other people.
yeah,
And it's kind of what you're saying, where like when you kind of give up, like okay, let's say today I made a horrible decision. I stole, or I like insulted my parents. When they were just like something bad. Tomorrow when you wake up, you got to compare yourself with who you were yesterday
yeah,
and beat that person. Like anybody else, who cares? You got to be better than who you were yesterday. Like you yourself, right? And that for me is the thing, cuz I don't, just because and that's the thing too. I recognize and I'm at peace with knowing that I'm not that good of a person, but that makes me want to strive to be better by doing that. Like, so if I make a mistake today, be like, I don't want to make that same mistake tomorrow. Because the biggest like downfall of all is when you fall and you just stay there.
yeah,
You don't get back up. That's when like your horrific acts or your bad mentality is unjustified. Because if you know it's bad and you stay there like on purpose,
yeah.
it's really hard to justify you at that point.
It's like you're doing it to yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're
But if you
and
try to get back up and fall, like how can you blame someone if they're trying, right?
you get what do they say? What's the saying? You miss 50% of the shots you don't take, and what's the other one?
Isn't it 100% of the shots you don't?
No, yeah, you miss 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's another one which is uh like not trying is a failure. Like if you try and fail, you tried.
And
But
you're a step ahead a little bit
yeah,
at
it's like,
least.
oh, it's like, okay, I kind of. But if you don't try, and it's like, yeah, I could have been a basketball player, but I didn't really do it. It's like, well, you didn't try. You'll never know. Now you're gonna have to spend your life wondering. Existentialism is like the worst thing in the world. Um, you can't think. It's what you wherever there's another old saying too. Wherever you go, there you are, or something. But it's you can't, because you can. I struggled with that for a long time, like laying awake at night, like why the hell am I here? I have to have a greater purpose, and the the girl I was dating was like, that's a very like righteous way to speak. Like not everybody, and she told me, she's like, not everybody's meant for greatness, and it's a sad thing. I mean, you got to make your own destiny. You got to, if you
Yeah.
really want to be great, go be great. But it's like, what's greatness to some people might be getting up in the morning and being like, yeah, I got up, I'm alive. And so for other people, it might be like, yeah, I own a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah,
It's
it means
it's
different things to different
certain
people.
thing, yeah, like like money. At the end of the day, money's just it makes the world go round, but it's just a thing. But it's something we need, and your own personal success is what's got to drive you. You got to be okay with yourself, and you can't worry about what someone else thinks. You have to be okay with who you are.
And I guess what I want to say to everybody is that for me personally is the greatest success, the greatest heroic act would be to fight. Not even necessarily winning, is just at least trying.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the thing, man. Like, even if you don't win that fight, but you tried, that's for me, that's heroic, you know. And it pertains back to this conversation that we're having, right? Unfortunately, many don't win that fight, you know. But if they tried, maybe they didn't get the necessary help. But it leaves the ones behind to learn, and people like us talking about this to try to be there for people,
Because
right?
we've lost a lot of people the last couple. Anthony Bourdain, we lost Chris Cornell, we lost Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park, and they were actually good
Oh
friends.
yeah, yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
these, you get to that point where you're so like it's sad. People kill themselves, right? Like I also have a family friend who killed himself, and like he had a business and he left behind a lot of kind of he kind of left a mess for people to clean. It's not a pretty thing. It's not it's
100%. Yeah, yeah. It leaves like a legacy, but not in a good way
because you got
behind,
to
right?
deal with like for anyone that deals with mental health, you got to let the emotions, you got to let it kind of let it flow. You got to
Like a river. Yeah.
yeah, like I like my doctor told me, he's like, you're on this medication, it's gonna make you go up and down. He's like, just cry, break, do whatever you want to do. You're alone in your house, but
Yeah. Man, that's good. But for anybody interested, we're gonna leave a number. I know you said you have it too, but
mhm.
we're gonna leave a number. Like, we're always here as well. Rich. Well, what's your Instagram handle or
uh,
whatever you want to promote?
it's it's Rich Rules,
Mm.
uh, but rules is spelt with a Z. And
Rules with a Z.
one more thing, I forgot. I had this in my brain already
Yeah.
to say it during the thing, and this goes for anything. This goes for mental health, whatever. If you're even if you're just struggling, having a bad day, uh, the what my therapist told me was, and like it's those things that you hear and it just sticks with you, is that pain is inevitable. We're all gonna feel pain, but suffering is a choice. You gotta get the help, or someone's gotta help you, and I think that's like the best advice you can give
That's
somebody
amazing.
with issues, like, or with dealing with anything.
That's amazing, man. That's a good way to put it too, because it's kind of, we talked about it last episode with the victim mentality, right? There's no excuse for that victim mentality, even though people they may have a good reason for it, but it's what you said, like the pain, you can't really help it. You don't choose, right? Like if you get hit by a car, like you didn't choose that,
It's gonna happen to you
but
regardless.
you can choose the suffering and the amount, right? The volume of it too, like how much you want to let in. So no, thank you, man. I appreciate you having on, being open with
Oh,
us.
it was what like I was saying earlier, it was cathartic. It's I like getting the stuff out. I like getting the it's it it makes me feel fulfilled. Like
Which is another good point. You said let it out. Like that's what people need as well, right? To like let out all these feelings, all these thoughts. Not everybody does that, but it'd be good to even write it in a journal,
hmm
record yourself. I would definitely recommend all that. But like I said, you guys can always message us at Out of Chaos Podcast on Instagram. Find us on Facebook. Rich Rules on Instagram with a Z. So again, thank you everybody for joining us on this amazing episode. Remember that chaos is unavoidable, but we try to do what we can to avoid and learn how to balance the chaos in our lives. See you guys later.